Welcome back to the page, Nduna Wengombe, which means headman of cattle in English. My name, of course, is Mitchell Mutumba Simata. This is the biggest agricultural platform in Namibia, and I'm the host. So, today on this 22nd of September, 2021, I want us to go down this journey of animal illnesses, and one of the most common one, which we would usually be inoculating our animals right around about September with medication known as Supervax, is anthrax. And I want to touch on anthrax. What is anthrax? How does it spread amongst livestock? What to do when you suspect anthrax? And how do you treat it? So that is what I want to touch on tonight. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. You guys know I'm never writing solo. I got my trusted notebook here with me. So let's get into this video of what anthrax, on the anthrax illness. On the anthrax illness. Anthrax is a bacterial disease of animals, commonly in cattle, sheep, and goats. Those are the three domesticated animals this virus is very common in. Anthrax is usually transmitted by contaminated feed or water, which is contaminated with the anthrax spores. These are the tiny bacteria that probably are not visible to the eye and can only be seen through a magnifying glass, which can last in soil for many years. That's a disadvantage of anthrax. It can stay in the soil for many years. The primary sign of anthrax in grazing animal is sudden death. That is the first sign you'd ever see. That's the most common one. And once you start seeing animals dropping, you call your vet and you tell him you suspect that your animals might have anthrax, because sometimes you can't even explain it, eh? Often when an animal has a sudden death from anthrax, it would start having a bloody discharge that could come out of the nose, the mouth, or the anus of the animal. In humans can be affected. Usually infection happens when you are handling contaminated animal, a dead animal that probably died from anthrax, and you have a sore on your hand, and you are handling this meat, and your sore and that meat come into contact with each other. That's how you can get it. And it's not really that fatal, but it's very fatal when the bacteria has been ingested or you've inhaled it. So when you eat it, when you're eating infected meat, or you're probably working with suspected animals that might have died of anthrax, and you're not wearing the mask, and you're busy inhaling the spores and inhaling the fumes coming from the dead animal, that's how it can be deadly to you. They say the cause of anthrax is caused by a bacteria, Bacillus, anthracis. The pores which can remain viable in the soil for up to 50 years. So anthrax can stay, the virus can stay alive in the soil for up to 50 years. And up to 200 years in the bones of dead animals. So if you've buried animals that probably you suspect of dying of anthrax, those bones can still be carrying the virus for about 200 years and can reinfect if those bones are probably dug out by a dog or whatever, or wildlife in your cows. Because you'd see your cows, cattle have a tendency of taking a bone and eating bones. And this is how they can actually end up contracting anthrax, if they eat bones of dead animals. Outbreaks of anthrax are often followed by soil disturbances or major weather patterns, such as probably droughts or probably heavy rains. And you can say heavy drought or prolonged drought or heavy rains can actually cause anthrax. Species affected by anthrax. Anthrax affects many livestock species, including cattle, sheep, goats, horses, and pigs. Horses and pigs can also get anthrax, and dogs can also be affected by anthrax. So a dog is not special. It can also contract anthrax. So how this disease spreads, eh? They say in grazing animals, anthrax is usually spread by contact with spores in the soil or on a pasture, spread by direct contact between infected animals, or by inhalation. By you probably inhaling it, or animals can spread it by those means. Inhalation, but that is rare. That one is often very rare. So what are the signs to look for if you are suspecting your animals of probably having contracted anthrax? So you'd look at things such as sudden drop in milk, red stained milk or urine, weakness and staggering, rapidly worsening with days going by, sudden death, which is the most obvious one, blood or tarry discharge from the mouth, nose, or anus of a dead animal. Probably if tarry would be maybe the blood that would be coming out of the rectum and so. In horses, it could show itself. I've mentioned one, two, three, four. Four things already. In horses, it could show itself as diarrhea. In dogs, you could have throat swelling up and drowsiness in dogs and pigs. So that's something that you can keep an eye out for if they don't just get the sudden death, but they usually just die. So when you see the signs and you're suspecting that you probably might have an anthrax outbreak in your kraal or at your farm, call your state vet immediately so they can come through and come assist you. Anthrax in humans. Humans can contract anthrax through handling infected animal carcass, animal products, and wool. So in sheep, the wool, if the animals have anthrax, the wool can affect you. So the wool in sheep can actually carry anthrax and could infect you. You know, they say when you are dealing with these things, you must take extreme care when handling these things of animals that you probably suspect of dying of anthrax or probably have contracted anthrax. So it's always good to wear your mask, your gloves and your mask. So it's very important, guys. Very important. If you have been exposed to anthrax, contact your medical practitioner immediately. So it's very important that you get onto the phone and phone your doctor, or probably phone your nearest hospital so they can probably take you through steps. You might be admitted as not to be fatal, because it's an illness that can also be fatal to human beings. You know, as they said, we can get it either by inhaling fumes from dead animals that have died from anthrax or ingesting meat that comes from an animal that have died from anthrax. So these are things that we need to be cognizant about when we are carrying out autopsies. Because I know ourselves as farmers, sometimes when our animals just die suddenly on the farm, the first thing we would probably tell our workers or we would want to do is get a knife and carry out an autopsy to see what could have been the cause. And sometimes it's very important that these people that carry out these autopsies, your farm workers, you buy them the gloves, the safety gloves, and you buy them the masks. Well, nowadays we're wearing masks because of COVID. So you tell them to wear that mask, and to wear the gloves, so they don't just get a knife and start cutting an animal without having proper protective gear. And probably if the animal did die of anthrax, that's how they contracted, and they start affecting other people. So now we move on to treatment of anthrax. So management and how to treat. Treatment of anthrax is rarely possible, as infected animals usually die. They die quick. But, however, penicillin, which is administered by a vet, could actually be used as a method of treatment to save animals. This is why you see why they tell us to vaccinate Supervax in April, as to prevent anthrax outbreaks. In most livestock illnesses, it's better to prevent than to cure, because sometimes there's no cure. Like anthrax, if your cattle have anthrax, or your goats or your sheep have anthrax, or your pigs or your horses, chances are they're gonna die. You know, this is an illness that is, I can call it one blow knockout, one punch TKO. There's no two ways about it. Animals die from this thing, so it's very important that we do our vaccinations at the right time as to prevent this type of outbreaks, because as I said earlier, some illnesses are not curable. Once your cows have it, it's curtains. Then they say how to dispose the carcasses. To minimize the spread of the infective spores, it is vital to dispose of anthrax-affected carcasses correctly. Spores will remain in the body or in and on the body for a very long time. So the carcass of the animal that has died from the disease must either be burned or buried. But in this case, you have to contact your local vet. In this case, most of the time, our local vets will be the state vets, so they advise you how to correctly dispose of the carcass. So those are my 2 cents on the illness of anthrax and why it's important to vaccinate. That's why it's important, because this is an illness, once contracted, guaranteed, sudden death is guaranteed. There is no two ways about it. So it's very important that we do our vaccinations for this illness. Supervax, which we inject in April, does combat against things like botulism, brucellosis, and anthrax. Those are the 3 illnesses that it does combat against. So it's very important that we get these medications and that we do this inoculations. This is for Namibia. I do not know what you guys are probably using in South Africa or what you guys might be using in... I think South Africa, you guys could also be using Supervax because I believe it's produced in South Africa. But I'm not sure what you guys will be using in Botswana or what you'll be using in Zimbabwe or any other country. But any anthrax vaccination or any anthrax medication that is available, it's always very good for you to do it beforehand. Because anthrax can be spread by contaminated water, contaminated feed, coming into contact with animals that probably, or a dead animal that died from anthrax, and the animals are coming to sniff and just getting in contact with the carcass. That's how this illness spreads. And once it spreads, it's like wildfire. It spreads very quick in a crawl. You can lose your entire herd of 20 to 30 or even 40, let's say even 100 herds of cattle, just from that one outbreak of anthrax. And it's not just dangerous to your cattle, it's dangerous to your small stock, and also your horses, and also your dog, and also you as a human being. So this is why it's important for you to do your anthrax vaccinations when it's time to do the anthrax vaccination. I believe in Namibia it's in April, if I can recall the vaccination program. It's in April. We do them in April. And like they mentioned, this illness is sometimes just occurs because of disturbance into the ground or after prolonged droughts or heavy rains. So that's how anthrax moves about, guys. With that said, guys, do me 2 favors. If you haven't subscribed to the page yet, you are missing out. Honestly, you are. With that said, have yourself a good night. Bye for now.